Welcome to the scary dark room. Hey guys, tonight we step into the shadows of quiet small towns, places most people imagine as, well, peaceful, friendly, and safe. But under the surface of those neat houses, church steeples, and empty main streets, darkness often hides. These are places where people know each other's names, but they don't always know what goes on behind closed doors. Or maybe they know, and they choose to keep silent. Tonight, I'll share real horrors whispered from small towns in America and Europe, stories that remind us that evil doesn't only live in big cities. Sometimes it waits in the very heart of the places we think we can trust. Before we get deep into the story, take a moment to like and subscribe to the video. And let me ask you, where are you watching from? And what time is it where you are? Comment below. Let's begin. In 1994, in a small town in Pennsylvania, neighbors began to complain about a foul smell drifting across a quiet cul-de-sac. At first, it was written off as garbage or maybe a dead animal caught under someone's porch. But the smell grew stronger, heavier, until people couldn't ignore it. That's when police entered the home of a man named Harold Green, who had lived alone for decades. He was known to be a quiet recluse, the kind who mowed his lawn at night and never looked anyone in the eye. Inside, investigators discovered something the entire neighborhood would never forget. Harold had been keeping bodies, at least 4 of them, hidden in his basement, wrapped in plastic, stacked behind a false wall. He never explained where they came from. He never explained why. He simply sat calm and silent, as if he had been waiting for this day. The house was torn down within a year, but residents swore that the smell, a sickly sweet rot, still lingered in the air every summer night. Across the ocean, in the Scottish Highlands, there is a fishing town where people speak in hushed voices about the black house on the hill. For years it stood empty, its windows boarded, its paint peeled away by endless rain. In 1982, a family moved in, parents and 2 small children. They thought the gossip was nothing but small-town superstition, but only 3 months later, they vanished without a trace. Plates were still on the dining table when police entered, chairs knocked over as if people had stood suddenly. The parents' coats still hung near the door, the children's toys scattered across the living room floor. No signs of struggle, no footprints outside, no indication that they had even left. The only odd thing police reported was the smell of seawater in the house, though it sat nearly 2 miles from the coast. To this day, locals warn visitors not to even look at the windows if they drive past at night. Some say you can see small, pale faces pressed against the glass. Others say the house watches you back. Not all horrors hide behind walls. Some live in plain sight in rituals carried out by communities themselves. In a rural village in France, an old festival was celebrated for generations. A kind of harvest tradition where scarecrows were burned to protect the town from misfortune. But in 1976, the celebration took a darker turn. That year, the festival fire burned longer, hotter, filling the air with thick, acrid smoke. People cheered until someone noticed the smell wasn't straw or wood, it was flesh. When the fire was finally extinguished, charred remains were found inside the scarecrows. Human remains. The villagers swore they had no idea how they got there. The mayor demanded silence, insisting it was an outsider's trick meant to embarrass the town. The case was closed quickly, but the festival ended forever. Locals, however, say they still hear screams in the wind each harvest season, as though the fire still burns somewhere beyond sight. America has its own shadows, too. In Nebraska, there's a town where children are told never to play near the abandoned grain silo. The structure towers above empty fields, rust eating away at its sides. Farmers say they hear metallic groans at night, even when the air is still. But the truth goes back to the 1950s. A young boy disappeared while playing hide-and-seek near the silo. His friends searched for hours, their voices echoing in the tall grass. But he was gone. When rescuers pried open a sealed hatch at the base of the silo, they found more than they expected. The boy was there, yes, but not alone. His body was curled near a pile of bones, at least 7 other skeletons, old, brittle, their clothes reduced to dust. No one could explain how the hatch had been sealed shut, or why no one had ever noticed the missing people before. Since then, locals swear they hear banging from inside the silo at night, like someone desperately trying to escape. Sometimes the horror isn't in what we find, but what we can never explain. In a German village tucked deep into the Black Forest, there is a stretch of road known as the Silent Mile. Drivers report that when they cross it at night, their engines cut out, their radios fall silent, and frost creeps across the windows, no matter the season. In 1999, a family driving home late vanished along that very mile. Their car was later discovered abandoned in a ditch, doors open, headlights still glowing. Inside, the seats were warm, as if the family had just stepped out. But there were no footprints in the dirt, no trace of where they went. The only clue was a small handprint on the back window, smeared in something dark and sticky. Authorities closed the case, calling it inconclusive. Locals whisper that the road is a passage between worlds, and those who are unlucky enough to be caught there are simply taken, swallowed whole by the forest. Even today, in both America and Europe, new horrors continue to rise from small towns, places where everyone knows everyone, where the churches stand tall and the streets are quiet after dark, places that seem safe until the silence breaks, a scream carried on the wind, a shadow moving in an empty house, a knock at your door when you know no one should be there. And maybe that's the most unsettling truth of all. Small towns feel safe because they are familiar, but it's that very familiarity that hides the most dangerous secrets, because when everyone knows everyone, sometimes no one dares to speak up. If this story chilled you, don't forget to subscribe to the Scary Dark Room for more terrifying tales.